In today's ServerSage demo, let's run through some administrator basics. We'll be getting ServerSage to install Docker and then Portainer, a lightweight management UI for containers. Along the way, you will see ServerSage act as a guide, proactively recommending next steps, flagging potential misconfigurations, making recommendations, and ultimately helping the administrator overcome the tedious setup steps that typically bog down even seasoned sysadmins. We'll begin by having ServerSage check for an existing Docker installation. If Docker isn't detected, ServerSage will automatically handle the installation process. I'm going to manually confirm that Docker is indeed not installed using the command line on the virtual machine you see on the left. This virtual machine is running locally on my laptop and serves as a realistic example of a server operating behind a firewall within a private network. ServerSage now proceeds with the Docker installation. Typically, this would mean spending 10 to 15 minutes SSHing into the server, sorting out dependencies, and dealing with package manager quirks. Instead, ServerSage maps out the required steps, resolves all dependencies, and handles the installation end to end. Because installations can take some time, it runs the tasks in the background, allowing me to stay productive. While that's happening, I'm getting some helpful guidance on Portainer, the tool I plan to use for managing my containers once Docker is ready. While Docker is installing, ServerSage offers a quick overview of Portainer. Portainer is a lightweight web-based UI that makes managing Docker environments much more accessible. Instead of memorizing CLI commands, you get a visual dashboard to deploy containers, monitor resource usage, manage volumes, and even configure networking, all in just a few clicks. ServerSage not only explains what Portainer does, but also suggests best practices for deployment, such as running it with persistent storage, securing it with HTTPS, and limiting access through firewall rules. It's like having a sys admin coach built in, guiding you toward production-ready setups with minimal effort. As you can see, I'm not entirely familiar with how to use Portainer, but ServerSage steps in with a clear, concise overview of the prerequisites and walks me through how to install and start the service properly. Next, I'm going to check if Docker has been successfully installed. ServerSage runs a quick status check, and it looks like the installation is still in progress. To view the command history, simply click on the Show Terminal tab on the right-hand side of the interface. This reveals all the commands ServerSage has executed, providing full visibility and traceability. While we wait, I'll have ServerSage check whether Ansible is installed on the system. Great. It looks like Ansible is already installed along with Python. That's perfect, as it'll come in handy later when we start orchestrating configurations or deploying infrastructure as code. And it looks like the Docker installation has finally completed. Now let's move on and get Portainer set up so we can start managing our containers through a clean web interface. There it is. ServerSage has completed the Portainer installation entirely on its own. Now, I'll ask it how to access the web UI so we can start interacting with our Docker environment visually. It looks like I need to access Portainer using the local IP address on port 9000. Since I'm not sure what the IP is, I'll ask ServerSage to help me find it. Excellent. I'll go ahead and plug this into the browser on my Linux machine to access the Portainer dashboard. And there we have it. Portainer has been installed beautifully. I'll now go ahead and create an admin user so I can start managing containers and setting up my environment. All right, I've just logged into the Portainer dashboard for the first time. We have sections like dashboard, containers, stacks, images, and networks. Everything is clearly labeled, very beginner friendly. Before moving on, I'm just going to reconfirm that the Portainer container is actually running. I'll do a quick check using the command line. As you can see, we've got one container running on the virtual machine, and it's also clearly listed in the Portainer GUI, confirming everything's up and synced correctly. Now I'm going to ask ServerSage for a recommendation on a simple test application I can run, something lightweight that's easy to deploy, just to validate that Docker and Portainer are working smoothly. ServerSage has suggested NGINX as a test application, a lightweight web server that's perfect for verifying container deployment. It's a great choice since it's quick to pull, runs with minimal configuration, and lets me test port forwarding and browser access right away. Let's go ahead and get ServerSage to help us deploy it. I'll simply tell it I want to run an NGINX container, and ServerSage will handle the image pull, port mapping, and startup. No need to fumble with Docker run flags or YAML files. And there you go. The NGINX container has been successfully deployed and is now running on port 8080. Quick, clean, and autonomously executed by ServerSage. From the Portainer GUI, we can clearly see that the NGINX container is up and running. Its status is healthy, and it's listening on the correct port just as expected. Let's go ahead and navigate to the NGINX start page by entering the IP and port in the browser. If everything's running correctly, we should see the defaults NGINX welcome screen. And just to double check, I'll run a Docker command from the terminal. And sure enough, we see the same details. The NGINX container is running, mapped to port 8080, and everything matches what we see in the Portainer UI. Next, I'm going to ask ServerSage to generate a network report. This will give us a snapshot of the current network configuration, including IP addresses, active interfaces, and open ports, all without manually running multiple commands. From the report, you can clearly see the active services. Portainer is running on port 9000, NGINX on 8080, and any other exposed ports are neatly listed. It's a quick way to confirm what's accessible and ensure everything's mapped correctly. Next, we'll have ServerSage run a resource availability diagnostic. This will give us a real-time overview of CPU, memory, disk usage, and running processes. A quick health check to ensure the system isn't under strain and has enough capacity for additional workloads. As we explore the Portainer UI, ServerSage continues to act as a knowledgeable guide. For example, right here I'm looking at the stacks section and want to understand more about what it does, so I ask ServerSage, and it provides a clear explanation along with best practices for managing multi-container applications using Docker Compose. Sometimes the best way to learn is through show and tell. So I ask ServerSage to help me deploy a sample stack. It suggests a simple two-service web stack, an NGINX container serving as the front end, and a Redis store running in the background. ServerSage walks me through the Docker Compose structure, explains how the services communicate, highlights best practices for port mapping and persistent storage, and then automatically plans and executes the deployment. It looks like the stack deployment failed because this node isn't configured as a swarm manager. Fortunately, ServerSage immediately recognized the issue and presented two clear options: either initialize Docker Swarm on this node or deploy the services individually outside of a stack. This kind of real-time guidance, not just flagging the error, but providing actionable next steps, is exactly what makes ServerSage such a powerful assistant for system administrators. Since I'm not familiar with Docker Swarm, I'll ask ServerSage for some recommendations. Right away, it gives me a brief overview of what Swarm is, when it's useful, and whether it makes sense for my current setup, helping me make an informed decision instead of just guessing. Given that Swarm might be overkill for this setup, I'll go with Docker Compose instead, a simpler and more straightforward way to run multi-concernal applications. ServerSage agrees and quickly adapts the deployment plan to use Docker Compose, handling the file creation, service configuration, and execution all in one go. As always, we can review and audit all previously executed commands by clicking on the Show Terminal tab, giving us full transparency into every step ServerSage has taken. Well, it looks like Docker Compose isn't installed on this system. No problem. ServerSage detects the missing dependency and gives me two options: either proceed by running the necessary container commands manually, or install Docker Compose and continue with the stack deployment as originally planned. Let's go with the Docker Compose installation. Oh, it looks like we've run into another roadblock, this time with the Docker Compose plugin. ServerSage has identified that the plugin isn't properly configured or may be missing altogether, which is preventing Compose from running as expected. As always, it provides a clear explanation of the issue and lays out the next steps. In this case, would be installing the standalone Docker Compose binary. Let's go ahead with installing the standalone Docker Compose binary. ServerSage takes care of downloading the correct version, setting the appropriate permissions, and placing it in the system's executable path, all automatically. Success! Docker Compose has been successfully installed. ServerSage confirms the installation by listing the version. Everything's in place and ready to go for the next step in our deployment. We've now asked ServerSage to deploy the stack using Docker Compose. It parses the configuration, sets up the network, launches both the NGINX and Redis containers, and monitors their status, all without any manual intervention. And done! The sample stack has been successfully deployed using Docker Compose. We can now access the front end via port 8081, and let's switch over to Portainer to confirm that both services are visible and running as expected. Right here, you can see that the new stack is now showing up in the Portainer dashboard. Both the NGINX and Redis containers are listed, running smoothly and grouped under the same stack, just as expected. We'll just copy and paste the URL into the browser to confirm that everything's working. If all's gone well, we should see the NGINX front end live on port 8081. And there you have it, a fully functioning stack deployed with Docker Compose and visible in Portainer. Now, let's ask ServerSage for some guidance on how Portainer can help manage stacks moving forward, including updates, scaling, and service monitoring, all from the web interface. Next, we'll have ServerSage explain the YAML files it generated for this deployment. It walks through each section of the Docker composed YAML file, from service definitions to network settings and volume mappings, making it easy to understand how everything fits together, even if you're new to Compose. So, to wrap up this demo, let's take a quick look at what we've accomplished with ServerSage. We started by provisioning a virtual machine on a private network, simulating a real-world environment. ServerSage installed Docker and Portainer, handling dependencies and configuration automatically. Along the way, it acted not just as a tool, but as a knowledgeable assistant, providing explanations, recommendations, and background guidance. We verified installations via both the command line and the Portainer GUI and explored how ServerSage logs all actions for full transparency. We then asked for a simple test application, and ServerSage helped us deploy an NGINX container to confirm everything was working. From there, we moved into multi-service deployments. ServerSage suggested a sample stack using NGINX and Redis. Despite hitting a few common roadblocks like missing Docker Compose and plugin issues, ServerSage diagnosed the problems and walked us through alternate paths, ultimately installing the standalone Docker Compose binary and proceeding with deployment. We successfully deployed the stack, verified its operation in Portainer, and confirmed external access through the browser. Finally, ServerSage explained the structure of the generated YAML files, further reinforcing its role as both an autonomous agent and an educational resource. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope to see you again soon. Don't forget to subscribe for more demos, walkthroughs, and updates on how ServerSage is redefining system administration.